Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is August the what? 12th today? Something like that. I think we are on August the 12th. Good morning to everybody apart from Bullish Bull, who is drinking beer and swimming in Rhodes as he is watching us live. So everybody out there apart from Bullish Bull, I hope you have a wonderful time. Only joking. Enjoy your holiday. We've got a lot to talk about today. The 4-year cycle is dead for probably the 200th time. We're going to talk about the Bitcoin cycle. Is it dead or is it diminishing? That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about for Fukasa, which is not a medical condition or a swear word. It is the new upgrade from Ethereum. We're going to be talking about many other things today. Let me give you a bit of a brief. We're going to talk about Link. We're going to talk about Georgia. Not Toffolo, but a place in America. We're going to talk about MCV MVP, which is a mouthful. Don't know what it means. We're also going to talk about Beeple Oops. Beeple Oops is pretty funny, unless you happen to be Beeple, and then it isn't going to be very funny. We have a lot of X-Files to talk about, and, of course, we did tell you that Bitcoin was more likely than not going to come back into the channel. We're going to go through the Bitcoin chart as well. I think I've actually got the CME gap to show you again. I didn't draw it properly yesterday because I drew it on the stream, I think. So I'm going to show it you properly today and give you those prices. And today is the day, CPI day today. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Good mornings to everybody. Mags is here. Tariq, Bullish Bull. Well, Bullish Bull is in the pool. Hello, Bullish Bull. KB is here. Kishan is here. Hidden is here. Good morning to you all. And of course, lest we forget, we are on Binance Square. And I was talking to one of the chaps over there. And apparently I'm supposed to give them my links to tell them when I'm going live so they can actually promote it, because it's still fairly new, Binance Square. So today we're on Binance Live, Binance Square and YouTube. But actually, before we get into the charts, one last reminder. Tomorrow night is Maple Quiz Night. It's more likely going to be the same format as it was 2 weeks ago, with the Oracle on camera and me basically sitting in the background laughing for 45 minutes because I'm not able to basically be in the office with the Oracle for various different reasons. So we're more likely going to be doing that from a different location tomorrow, but it'll still be the same quiz, still the same prizes, still the same amount of fun. It's just that you won't see my pretty face unless we can find a way of setting the cameras up so I can be on camera, and then we'll give it a go. But anyway, let's get into the show. Where is Bitcoin? Precisely where I said it would be, pretty much. We were at 122,000 yesterday. We were outside of my range that I drew, and we've come back down. I think we got down to 118,500, something like that. We'll have a quick look at the CME gap. See if it's been filled. If it has, then we can carry on our merry way. Ethereum, though, decent, $4,300 for Ethereum. But look at the 7-day gain. We're up almost 20% on Ethereum. 20%. Incredible. Who would have thought it? XRP is 315. BNB is holding on to 800. Solana hasn't really moved. It's down to 175, but it's only up 5% over the last 7 days. Cardano is still hanging on to its safe space at 80 cents. Again, not much, but look at Chainlink. Chainlink, almost that $25 target that I set on Friday. We are seeing Chainlink overtake Stellar, Hyperliquid, Sui, and it's still there because it's a solid project. We're going to talk about that today. We didn't really talk about it enough. I think we talked about it a little bit on Friday's show, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And again, I said on Friday, if you don't have any Chainlink, it may be too late to get it in this bull run. But if I was going to pick some coins to hold in the next bull run, Chainlink would certainly be on that list. So again, not bad. Let's have a look at the 24-hour gainers and losers. What do we have? Not much in the way of gainers. We have Bitcoin Cash, which is trash. We have Pendle, which we like. Tron, which we don't like. Lido DAO is decent. Ton is up a touch. Ethereum, 6th on the 24-hour gainers. Unbelievable. Uniswap is up, and then stablecoins. So I'm expecting to see some red profit takes here. The coin that I don't like is down. The coin that I don't know anything about is down. Bonk is down. We're going to talk about... Actually, did we not talk about Bonk? I thought... Oh, I know. Okay, it's an X-Files. Okay. I've got some news about Bonk to come up. Pudgy Penguins is a profit take. That thing has been on an absolute tear. Aerodrome is down to $1.09. But look, it's up 47% in a week. Aerodrome has been one of my picks. I don't hold it. I don't hold everything I like. But it makes money. So Aerodrome you should be looking at. It's on Base. It's a DEX over there. Base is going to be huge. Aerodrome is going to be huge. WorldCoin is absolute trash. When it was at $4 or $5, I think I said it was never going to go above $4 or $5 ever again. And then it came down, it went up, and now it's below $1. And I hope that thing goes to 0. I am not a fan of it. And that's pretty much it. We're not going to run through any more of those. Let's get on to some X-Files. A lot happened in the last 24 hours since we last streamed. Compare that to Monday's show, where I am peddling my own tweets like some kind of snake oil salesman standing here showing you things that I have written just to fill the show up. Because all of these men in suits, they go away for the weekend. They go to the Hamptons. The degens, who've made all of their gains, they're sitting by a pool, eating bananas, tapping away on their novel on how I made $1 million in crypto. So not much happens over the weekends, especially in the summer. You will buy more COM. I think that's I hate being overly bullish on my own coins because I'm trying to be a little bit like Switzerland, a little bit more neutral. And I think we hold 110,000 COM. I don't know what that works out. Probably not a lot. Probably about $400 or $500 worth of COM. That's what we hold. And we've staked it. We've got no arrangement whatsoever with Compute 3 AI. None at all. But we do really like the project. And I've got a lot of videos that I need to make. I've got a mantra update video talking about what JP Mullen has said. I have a Compute 3 AI update. Again, they've done loads of things over there. They've got like B200s or something like that. I don't know enough about the tech side of it. They're going to do a presentation that I'm going to get my hands on, and I'm going to make a video about that because I think that's the easiest way to explain it. So I've got those things to make. I've got a video to make about Orbi. I've got a new video for that. I have about 6 or 7 videos to make. But honestly, August isn't hot. It's humid. It's humid as hell, and it's energy draining. So it's a struggle to get through them. And I do a lot of videos on Saturday and Sunday, but I've got a video update on COM. I've got a video update on Mantra. I've got a video update on Orbi. And I think the last decent video I made was probably the Maple Finance video that I put out last week. Jeff Bezos now accepts Bitcoin for space travel. I do not believe that it is space travel, because the definition of space travel was changed to be a different layer of the atmosphere. I believe space travel to be when you leave the Earth's atmosphere, because then you are in space, okay? But the scientists, I'm sure they were paid plenty of money to do this. They agreed that the 3rd or 4th layer of the atmosphere, getting to that layer was technically outer space. So therefore, he sends a rocket up, it goes through this little tiny belt and then comes straight back down. You've got into space. It's bullet. It's BS. Can't swear. It's BS. Okay. Seeing Katy Perry climbing out of that, whatever it was, and kissing the floor. Do you know what? She is insufferable. That woman. If it hadn't have come back down, the world would be a better place. Send those videos here. I shall do. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are well, sir. Right, let's move on. There's quite a lot of this to get through. I think today's going to be more of a chatty day than yesterday. Yesterday's quite hard to kind of like do it all because I don't want to just throw numbers at you because that's just pointless. If you don't have my reasoning behind those numbers, then it's just giving you numbers. Now, publicly traded Bitmine, Immersion has bought another 317,000 ETH worth $1.32 billion. This is the gentleman I was talking about the other day that was talking about Ethereum going to $20,000 or $60,000 an Ethereum. He has been very bullish for a very long time, and he's done a good job of going on CNN and all those places and talking up Ethereum, talking up Bitcoin. And you know what? He's a net positive. He's a net positive in crypto. But you're not going to go on TV and say Ethereum is going to go to $8,000 and then expect people to invest $1.32 billion into your company to buy more Ethereum when the return is only going to be 85, 90%. You're going to go on to TV and say, we're going to go 10 times higher than we are. So if we're at 4,300, he's going to go on TV and say, we're going to go to $50,000 an Ethereum. And then all of the investors watching CNN with all of their mates in the pub, just like American Psycho with their little spangly cards, are all watching that going, we need a little bit of Bitmine. That's a 10x return. So again, heroes can become villains. That is all I would say about people like him. We always need a pantomime villain at the end of every bull run. We don't know who that's going to be yet. I don't think it's going to be Saylor. Maybe it's going to be Tom. Maybe it's going to be somebody else. Who knows? Right then. Again, I'm not going to go through everything on this. I'm showing you this every couple of weeks. I'm not showing you every time. We started off showing you 25 companies. Then it became 50. Then it became 75. And now it's 100. Everything is changing in front of your eyes, and you probably don't realise it. It's like a lobster cooking in a pot of boiling water. It doesn't realise the water's getting hot, and then it's all over. And that's a little bit the same way you can look at adoption of Bitcoin. You don't... If you went back a year and 2 and 4 years and you took a crypto stream from those periods in time and you listened to what they were talking about, it's like somebody coming back from 20 years in the future and showing you something. There is there's a saying where if you go forward or backward 100 years, both will appear as if they are magic. You will appear like you're a magician in 100 years ago with your iPhone and your internet and everything else. And if you go to 100 years into the future, everything in the future looks magic because it's 100 years worth of technological advancement. So when you're in the middle of one of these things, which is the adoption of Bitcoin, the adoption of crypto and Web3, you don't realize it. You're the lobster. If there's one thing to take away from today, I've just called you a lobster. I've called you many things on this channel. I've called you a cow. I've called you a bunny rabbit. I've called you a capybara. I've called you many things. Today you're a lobster, okay? You are slowly boiling in this water and you don't realize it because you're in the middle of it. And that's the thing. You're in the middle of the forest. You can't see the wood for the trees. You don't know which way out you are. This is what it's like. 100 companies. And this isn't a finite list. There are more. This is a big job. I'm going to show you this list in 6 months' time, and it's going to have 250 names on it, 300 names on it. It might go to multiple pages. But remember, being the lobster in this analogy, you don't probably understand how far we've already come since the start of the year, since the start of last year. We've come so far. And it's great, of course, but there'll come a point where I think we've gone too far. China is catching up to the US in tech. It has some big problems looming for the next few decades. Two that stand out to me: new startups annually close to zero, new birth rate 50% below replacement level. So, two things. Why do I have trust issues with scientists? Let's start with that one. Number one, they told me we were all going to die of mad cow disease. Number two, they told me we were all going to die of bird flu. Number three, they told us that we were going to be overpopulated. We were going to break 15 billion people on planet Earth, and we were all going to die of starvation because we didn't have enough food to feed the number of people. That's why I have trust issues with scientists. So when somebody tells me take this injection, it's going to stop all of these things. I'm not going to believe them. Somebody tells me that the earth is going to boil. I'm not going to believe them because they've been wrong for my entire life. They've been wrong for my entire life. I think we also had an asteroid at one point in the 80s that was going to hit the moon or hit Earth. I can't remember which. That never happened. So I don't trust them. What I trust are facts and not extrapolated facts. And the facts are, if we do not have, is it 2.1 or 2.4 children, then our societies will cease to be. That is an undeniable fact. China, Japan, Italy, UK, all of Europe are having less kids than they should have. If you have a family, have 4 children. Just do it, okay? And secondly, startups. Where is the motivation to start your business? If you have a positive outlook on the future of your society and you want to do something for yourself and have aspirations, you will start a business. So when you see a society with no startups, and remember, this is China. We're not talking about Devon or the Isle of Man. We're talking about China. When you see this close to zero, you can read a lot into this. They're not having children, and they don't think their future is very bright. You read into that what you want, okay? And luckily, in lots of other parts of the world, we do have a lot of startups. We're just not having enough kids. And we know it. We know children are expensive. We know that. And something's got to change. I think Hungary or Poland are basically saying if you have 2 or 3 children, you won't pay any tax. That's what you need to do. You need to make it a desirable thing to do, which is basically, when we come down to it, it's keeping the human race alive. That's it. If you've ever had a kid, and I think quite a few of you had, when you're sitting there in the ward, a nurse will come up to you or a doctor will come up to you and say something along the lines of, thank you for contributing to the human race. And at the time, when they tell you that, you think, what's he talking about, contributing to the human race? Now you know, we don't have enough kids. There are parts of Italy where they went, I think it was either a calendar month or a calendar year or all of 2025, and they didn't have a child in that town or city. That's how bad it is in Italy and Japan. Now then, we're going to move on. This is silly season. I keep telling you we're going into silly season. We've got our first bonk treasury company, Safety Shot Nasdaq. Shot will hold roughly $25 million worth of bonk tokens. The ticket is Shot, the asset is bonk. Now, what I would do is I would say the value is Shot and the asset is bonkers. This is going to be a black swan. This is going to be a black swan. We mentioned it yesterday. Not for Bitcoin, possibly not for Ethereum. But when you see, let's call them dumbasses. I think we can say dumbasses, can't we? That's not really rude. When you see dumbasses going out and buying meme coins for their treasury, or buying coins in ranked 40 to 50 for their treasury, they're basically buying stocks in that company. That's all they're really doing. You can't really look outside of maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum. And maybe later on, you look at BNB and you look at Solana. But they need to get a little bit more valuable. This is ridiculous. Okay? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this is bonkers. Absolutely 100% bonkers. These people, they are gambling with their treasury. How hard did they work to generate that $25 million to go and put it into a meme coin? Now, great. Let's say it goes through the bull run. Bonk 4x's from here. What are they going to do? They're going to sell it. It's just going to absolutely crush the price of bonk because everybody else will sell it. SEC and Ripple reach joint stipulation to dismiss all appeals in the SEC versus Ripple Labs. This happened, but this has been announced now. Ripple to pay $125 million civil penalty. Injunction remains in effect. Case now officially closed. There it is. This has been live. This has been a live situation ever since we started, which was about 2 and a bit years ago. Live streaming anyway. It's over. Why hasn't Ripple ripped up in price? That's what you're all asking. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not here to give you that kind of insightful. No, seriously, I think there's a lot of profit taking going on. I think it's a good time. If you've got a $3.30 XRP, it's a good time to take profits. It doesn't mean it's not going to go any higher. I think it will go higher, but it's a good profit take. Right, this is the CME gap. I think this is a CME gap, and I drew it really badly yesterday. So let's just zoom in a little bit, because this is still on the cards. I've even given you some text, okay? I've even given you some text. We are coming here. Look, there. I wrote that with my fine hand. Now, we are pretty much there. Now, the bottom, and again, I drew this wrong yesterday. I said it was 118. It's actually 117.7. How is this not going to close? Okay, so the gap is 117.7, and it goes up to about 119.1. I think today, what are we at? 118.5. So I think right now we are there. Okay, now I haven't checked the chart yet. We're going to do that in a minute. I think we may have closed it, but I'm not sure because this hasn't opened yet. But anyway, when we were up here yesterday, and we'll look at the Bitcoin chart again in a second, like I just said, I was telling you that we weren't going to keep going up. We were going to close this gap. We're too close to the gap for us not to close it. So now we're on to the big bit of news. This is whether the 4-year cycle is dead, because this is what you're going to hear. This is what you're going to hear for the next 4 months. I think for the next 4 months you're going to hear this. Right, let me just keep an eye on chat. Good morning, Villain Bear. I hope you are well, sir. Mew and Pengu. Yeah, I'm still bullish on Mew because they've just bought themselves a animation studio. Bricks and Mortar Animation Studio, number 1. Number 2, they've got an animated series that's going to come out. That's going to promote all of their merch. They've just launched their merch. I think Mew are probably about, in some instances, 6 months behind Pengu. And in other instances, 6 months ahead of Pengu. Because Mew focused on the animation and Pengu has focused on noise. So when you look at the Pengu ETF, you look at the fact that they did the opening bell at the Nasdaq. They've got that stupid dancing fluffy penguin bouncing around. So they are about. But I think Mew is going to follow the same trajectory. And again, you can't say that everything is going to go up 10 or 20x, but you can say that the foundations that they have both built, and not just those two, there's others as well, they're good foundations. So an animation studio that's hopefully funded for the next few years is going to bring out an animated series. And Mew is a very, very popular figure in the Asian market. So I don't see how it doesn't do well. Right, let's move on. Bitcoin's 4-year cycle is dead, says Pierre Rochard. Here's what drives Bitcoin's price. Now, as OG whales, ETFs and CEOs like Michael Saylor now steer more than algorithm, Bitcoin's pulse sinks less with block rewards and more with the global boardroom. I've heard this before, but I'll give you my opinion at the end. For over a decade, Bitcoin's market rhythm seemed predictable. Every 4 years, the halving event, a programmed cut to mining rewards, triggered a chain reaction. 18 months after the halving is when you hit an all-time high. That is the finger in the air. All-time high 18 months after the halving. Prices would climb to new highs, then collapse into a crypto winter, only to begin the cycle again. The pattern has been treated almost like gospel amongst crypto traders. Now, some say this may be over. So from Bitcoin halvings to liquidity waves, analysts say Bitcoin's 4-year cycle is losing its grip. Now, actually, let me carry on. It seems more likely than not that the 4-year cycles are over. Halvings are immaterial to trading float. 95% of the Bitcoin has been mined. Supply comes from buying out OGs. Demand is the sum of spot retail ETPs getting added to wealth platforms and treasury companies, says Pierre Rochard. Anything else of note in here? Oh, here we go. This is a nice little chart, actually. Bitcoins left to mined, 5%. Bitcoins added daily, 450. Circulating supply, 95%. Now, again, big misconception that there are 21 million Bitcoin. Okay? Plot twist. There are not 21 million Bitcoin. Number one, Satoshi has 1 million. He doesn't exist anymore. Maybe Hal Finney, maybe not. That makes it 20 million. Also, not 20 million. I'd estimate 1 to 2 million Bitcoin are gone forever. And there will be tools where we'll be able to go away and have a look at all the Bitcoin that hasn't moved in, say, 10 years, whatever. It's gone. A good example is somebody won a prize yesterday and I sent them their coins. And they gave me the wrong wallet address or wallet address that they don't have access to. Those coins, irretrievable. They're gone forever. So the circulating supply of that coin that I sent is gone. It's finished, okay? With Bitcoin, it's even worse. You can't remint it. So I believe there is a maximum of 19 million Bitcoin left. Take off the 1 million left to be mined, and we're down to maybe 18 million Bitcoin in circulation. 17 million Bitcoin in circulation. There's a lot less than people think. That's why we're so adamant to always tell you to buy Bitcoin. And I'll show you something else in a minute. Actually, I'll show it you now. Because I am trying to get more people over to X, to watch me more on X. I make a lot more content over there. And there's something on X. It's like a little passage. Okay? A little passage, a rite of passage that you should do. Everybody out here, if you've never done it. So I think some people in chat will have done it. I'm sure Mags has done it. I'm sure KB has done it. Maybe Villain Bear hasn't done it. And that is this. On my profile, I have the link to the Bitcoin white paper right there. Okay? Now, that Bitcoin white paper is something that if you're in crypto and you're serious about crypto, you need to read it. It's a 10-15 minute read. Read the white paper. It's your rite of passage, okay? Read the white paper, and then if you do want to go any further, read the background to why Bitcoin was created, okay? There was somebody on Twitter the other day saying it took them 4 hours to explain Bitcoin to somebody. And then the people were laughing at him. It doesn't take 4 hours to explain Bitcoin to somebody. It does. Because to explain Bitcoin, you have to explain why Bitcoin exists. And to explain why Bitcoin exists, you have to explain the system. And to explain the system, you need to explain fiat. You need to explain money printing. You need to explain inflation. So it's a 4-hour macroeconomic lesson in why Bitcoin solves some of the issues, okay? And that is debasement of the money in your pocket. Why are things getting more expensive? They are not getting more expensive. The money that you have in your pocket and in your bank is worth less than it was last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And whose fault is that? Is it immigration? Is it childbirth? Is it Ukraine? Your government is printing your money to be worth less and less. Okay, there are, of course, the odd exceptions. I know. On the whole, government prints money, and that money devalues your money over a period of time. And why do they want to keep inflation at 2%? Because it takes 50 years for your money to become worthless. And by that time, you start work at 16, you get to 66, and you retire. So that 50-year period that they devalue your money over is basically the period that you work. That's why 2% is so important to everybody. It doesn't go down 100%. Obviously, it goes down 95%, whatever it might be. That was a proper divergence there, wasn't it? So today's price action is just tied to global liquidity, ETF flows, and investor sentiment. as it is on-chain supply dynamics. We're seeing Bitcoin respond to the same forces that move equities, bonds, and commodities. Still, not everyone is ready to call the cycle dead. Speaking to Crypto News, Connor Howe, CEO of Enzo, says the halving influence has been diluted, not erased. In Bitcoin's early years, miners' shocks were a dominant driver of price. Today, macro conditions, ETF flows are. Prashant Maurya, co-founder and CEO of Spheron, reiterated the same point. Speaking to Crypto News, saying the halving isn't irrelevant, but it's no longer the main driver. Now, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart. I think I brought up the Bitcoin chart yesterday, but we're going to do it again today because I want to do some Tony Hart drawing. Bob Ross for you Yanks out there, but Tony Hart for anybody that's in England and older than 20. I want to show you something. We have to be careful, by the way, because the bear is in chat. And if the bear is in chat, that means one thing. He is taking notes for his bear friends. Right, so this is... that's not the Bitcoin chart. That is the Bitcoin... that is the Bitcoin... what's it called? CME gap. That's not the one we want. We want this one. And as if by magic, it has appeared. Okay, so just a little recap on what I drew yesterday. I said yesterday, go back and watch the video, that this was a wick outside of the range, which we've done before, and ignore it. And we are now back in that range. Okay, it was short-lived. Simon asked if he should be shorting Bitcoin at 122,000. I think I said the words, something on the lines of, yes, but it's not financial advice, but I would. Okay, now had you shorted from 122,000, I don't know, on a 10x, you'd have made, what, 20%? Anyway, I don't really do leverage. So my prediction is this. We may, depending on the CPI data today, we may go a little bit higher. But what I want to show you is this. Okay. And that is, I can't really do the monthly, I suppose. What Bitcoin has done in its history is these huge kind of momentous spikes. Okay. But what you're going to see over time is this. Okay. And this is the best way for me to describe it. There's a thing called diminishing returns. And diminishing returns is, in Bitcoin's case, when the asset was worth $100 billion and new money came in, it didn't take as much to move the price of Bitcoin. And there's a calculation out there somewhere where, for example, $100 of Bitcoin at a certain price would move it $1. Then it became $1,000 of buy action would move it $1. Then 10,000 would move it $1 and 100,000 moving $1. So when you look at the rips that Bitcoin has done, maybe this was a 100x. Maybe this was a 50x. Maybe this was a 25x. Maybe this was a 10x. And where are we today from the low to the high? We're at about an 8x. Okay? So, it's diminishing returns because every cycle that goes by, the value of Bitcoin goes up. And the value of Bitcoin goes up makes it a more valuable asset. Now, you could do this. I've said this before as well. You could do this with tech stock. You could do this with Tesla. You could do this with Apple, Microsoft, Meta, whatever you want to look at. Go back to the first 4 or 5 years of their life, and you'll see a chart that looks pretty much like this. Massive spikes, massive dips. Because when we were doing the 100x, Bitcoin went from 19,000 down to 3,000. Then it went down from last cycle, 69,000 to 15,000. The question is, where are we going to go down from and to this cycle? I say quite a lot that we have 6 to 7 30% dips in Bitcoin in its bull run. Okay, because a lot of people don't understand that, we do have dips. We don't go up in a straight line. If we went up in a straight line, we'd do that, wouldn't we? But we don't. We have these kind of actions, and especially when you look at what happened with Trump. I mean, I think, was that Trump down there? That was Trump. We can look back at... Oh, actually, we're not going to go back to COVID. We'll be here all day. It's not a history lesson. Let's get rid of that. So when we talk about diminishing returns, we also have to look at what can move the price of Bitcoin. Now, in the last cycle, there was 900 Bitcoin a day being created. This cycle, 450 Bitcoin a day being created. Next cycle, 225. So when you look at what happens there, you have this kind of arc where that is time and that is supply. And back here, we were doing 1,800 Bitcoin a day. And then we were doing 900 Bitcoin a day. And then we're doing 450 Bitcoin a day. Then we're doing 225 Bitcoin a day. So if we've got less Bitcoin being created, we have less inflation. We have less inflation, but we have less to buy. If we have less to buy, it pushes the price up. If it pushes the price up, the price becomes less volatile. So all of those things tie together to mean that the 4-year cycle, I don't think the 4-year cycle is dead. I think it's diminishing. And that's a big difference. It's not dead. There will always be the hype around the halving. There will always be the hype around the 18-month blow off top. But that hype is fading, because going from 1,800 a day to 900 a day is a big jump. Going from 450 to 225 is not a big jump. And then what do we do in 2032? We go from 225 to 112 and a half. It's negligible. So I think it's not dead. I think it's diminished. And that brings me back to my original point that I've made for a year or so now, that this is the last great bull run. This is the last great bull run, and I'll stand by that. And if I ever write a book, that will be the title of my book. And the reason it's the last great bull run is we didn't have institutional adoption in 2021, and we have it in 2025. And that is the last great bull run, because the adoption curve, for me anyway, is at the end rather than at the beginning. And I don't mean that in terms of the money coming in. I mean that in terms of the players coming in. I said we would go individuals, companies, banking institutions, governments, in that order. And what we did was we went straight from individuals to simultaneously banking institutions and governments. If you think about it, a year ago, we had the first Bitcoin ETF. Feels like they've been around forever. We also have America talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Game theory kicks in. There's going to be 30 or 40 Bitcoin strategic reserves around the world within the next 2 years. That's it. That's the last great bull run. That's adoption. That's how it looks. You might not think it because we're not at $1 million, but that's it. It's game over. We've done it. Bitcoin has won. Okay, where it goes to after that in terms of price, for me, is irrelevant. It has won. It has validated itself as a pristine asset that countries, individuals, companies, and financial institutions all want a piece of. That's why. And Satoshi, all those years ago, absolutely hitting the nail on the head. Now, maybe it's Hal Finney, maybe it's not Hal Finney, maybe it's somebody else, but the point of the matter is, objective complete. The big issue now is, of course, how much are you willing to sell your Bitcoin for? Are you going to sell it for 100,000, 250,000, 500,000, or $1 million? Where do you sell your Bitcoin? Because in my opinion, you should never sell your Bitcoin. Everything else, sell. But Bitcoin should become your never sell asset. That's the one that's going to make you generational wealth. If you hold enough of it, of course, and you hold it long enough, of course. But for me, Bitcoin, it will always be the number one asset. Now, the number two asset, which is not going to flip Bitcoin, by the way, is Ethereum. So Fusaka upgrade set for November. What you need to know. Again, you hear more about these upgrades on Ethereum than you do on Bitcoin, or you do on Solana, or you do on pretty much any other chain. And I think it's because Ethereum is a computer. At the end of the day, it's the computer of Web3, as Vitalik wants to call it. So we focus more on the upgrades on Ethereum than we do on Bitcoin, really. And the upgrade, unlike Petra in May, that was delivered visual changes, count abstraction and high staking limits. I've got to be careful how I pronounce this. Fusaka operates behind the curtain, bundles 11 Ethereum improvement proposals focused on scalability, node resilience and efficiency, leaving smart contracts untouched. A DevNet launched in July 2025, and a round of Ethereum testnets in September and October will stress test the changes before mainnet activation. Now, the other thing that you can say about Ethereum is, and I've said this before as well, the programmers on Ethereum, especially Vitalik, they know their stuff. They are very, very good at what they do. The naivety comes from their misunderstanding of how human nature works. But when it comes to tech, they know what they're doing. There's not been, Solana's had rollbacks. Solana's got a Discord channel where they discuss things. It's just a bit of a mess, which is getting there. But Ethereum is the one. So the timeline is tight. DevNet went live in July 25. Public follows in September, and it is set for November the 5th, which is Bonfire night. If you're in the UK, coordinated to hit a predefined block height. The choice of date is strategic, aligning with Ethereum community updates around Dev Connect. By focusing on this, blah, 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 we're happy with that. Now, again, these are all the different things which we're not going to go into. The most important thing to take away from this is that each of these upgrades makes Ethereum more and more fitting to be the financial choice for the institutions. They can't just roll out one update that fixes everything. It doesn't work like that. They have to do it in phases, stages, and they have to evolve, not switch from A to B. So this evolution has been going on for years. And when Vitalik said it could be 10 or 15 years before they ever get to where they're happy, you understand why, because each big upgrade can take 1 to 2 years. So 7 upgrades, you're looking at 7 to 14 years. You've got to bear that kind of stuff in mind. Anyway, let's wait for this to load. Where are we? Finally, how long do we have left, by the way? 11:42, and we are here on XRP. Crikey almighty. Chainlink hits 7-month. Have I not updated the sidebar? Oh, don't tell me I've not updated the sidebar. I've not updated the sidebar. That's why it says XRP. We're actually looking at Chainlink next, Georgia, MCV, MVP, and then Beeple. So we do have a fair bit of news to talk about, but we should have plenty of time to talk about it. Now, Chainlink hits 7-month high as institutional partnerships fuel bullish outlook. So it's hit its 17-month high. The target could pave a way for $35 to $100. That's a bit of a big range. My top end for Link is $80 to $100. I have been saying that for 2 years. In fact, since we bought Link in January 2023, I've had a $80 to $100 target, top target for Link, just because of what it does. Exchange supply has dropped to record lows after Chainlink Reserve launch, signaling strong accumulation and reduced sell pressure. Partnerships with Swift, JP Morgan, MasterCard, and others boost confidence in Chainlink's institutional adoption potential. That hopefully has cut it pretty quite succinctly, which is nice. It confirmed the price could open a path towards $35, $50, and even $100 in this cycle. The scenario aligns with observations from analyst Ali, who believes Link could rally to $95 if it breaks above $24. At the time of writing, Link is trading at $22, meaning it needs to rise 9% from its current price to reach that threshold. Now, again, the thing to remember about Link, it's an altcoin. It will rise with the market, and it will fall with the market. And for us to get to that $80 to $100 market, or XRP or Solana or any of them, the market has to move in that direction. Bitcoin leads the way, then Ethereum, and then the rest of the alts. Now, we're talking about a $25 target now, but we should also remember that I am still talking down the market between now and October. And I think that Bitcoin will sidle down and to the right, maybe down to 104, 105,000, which is a 10% drop. If Bitcoin goes down 10%, maybe Ethereum doesn't. Maybe Ethereum goes only down 4 or 5%, but the alts will come down. So look at those targets with a pinch of salt. Yesterday, people were talking about the party just starting. Cyclically speaking, the party's over sometime in the next week or two, and then we're coming down a bit. So be careful about the timing of this. If you're going to buy Link or Solana or XRP, the best strategy is simply to dollar cost average in to the end of September. What did I say last September? Pack your bags by the end of September. That's the same this cycle. Pack your bags by the end of September. Packing your bags means dollar cost averaging into any coins that you don't hold enough of. Link, Solana hasn't really moved an awful lot yet. XRP, it's at $3. Great, but it hasn't got the ETF out yet. Neither has Solana. Ethereum's ETF staking hasn't been approved yet. No rate cuts. There's still a lot more to come from this cycle. But dollar cost averaging in means that if we do get the correction that I am expecting and predicting, then you might be able to get a $15 or a $14 Link. And it's back to what it was saying up here a minute ago about the support, which was at what price did it give for support? It mentioned a price up here somewhere. I'm sure it mentioned a price. I am certain I have just seen a price. Anyway, $15, $16. You'll be able to pick up Link for that. And again, if we forget my target of $80 to $100 and it only goes up towards the $50 or $60 that's predicted in here, and you've bought it at $15, and you can turn that $15 into $60 by the end of this bull run, it's a 4x. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The further we go along this bull run, the less you will make on your alts, especially if you're buying them now. Had you bought XRP at 30 cents and it goes to $9 in this bull run, that's a 30x. Let's say it only goes to $6 in this bull run, that's a 20x. You buy it today for $3 and it goes to $6, you've only got 100% return, which is a lot less. So again, the further we get towards the end of the bull run, the less return you get on your investment. And that's important. They're all moving trains. They're all moving trains. You can't jump on a train with one stop to go and expect to cover the distance that somebody who got on at the beginning of the journey has made. And that also comes down to FOMO. If I told you I bought Bitcoin at $3,000, you will all get FOMO. That's fine. But you were all buying Bitcoin at $15 and $30 and $40 and $50,000. So when somebody comes along today who's brand new to crypto and says, I've just bought my first bag of Bitcoin, it was $115,000. Instead of gloating and saying, well, I bought mine at $20,000, say congratulations, because both of you are going to win. If we get anywhere near $500,000 or $1 million further down the line, you're all going to win. Just your win will be bigger because you've been in the market longer than they have. So, right, Kango buys 50 megawatts of Bitcoin mining, or a 50 megawatt Bitcoin mining site in Georgia for $19.5 million to expand energy strategy, add hosting revenue as well. So again, we don't really cover the miners on here because they all tend to be quite big, quite big and quite corporate nowadays. Back in the day we used to talk about flaring, where people would put Bitcoin miners on rigs and stuff like that. We don't really talk about that anymore because it's all happened. But these are kind of strategic little moves here or there. Kango recently entered the 50 exahash tier alongside Mara and CleanSpark as it plans to grow its holdings to over 5,000 Bitcoin this year. Listed crypto infrastructure firm Kango has acquired a full megawatt Bitcoin mining farm. Again, you're going to see more and more of this. What you'll also see, as it becomes game theory, you're going to see maybe Chinese companies setting up mining farms in, I don't know, an Eastern European country. And what they'll do is they'll go there because it's cheap electricity. They'll build their own mining farm. Then they'll pay the country for that electricity. And then they'll send the Bitcoin back to China. That's how it works. And the country is naive. And it's the same with all rare precious minerals. You see these deals. Oh, Algeria has signed a $10 billion deal for its silver mines, for example. And the company, on behalf of the nation, they might take $200 billion worth of silver out of that mine, and the country gets 10. There's always somebody being exploited in stuff like this. And I'm not saying this is an exploitation. I'm saying that there will come a time when miners start to be set up around the world where electricity is cheap, and they will then use that cheap electricity to generate Bitcoin for their strategic reserve. And, there is some mention in here about Kango having Chinese connections and things like that. But what you'll also expect to see is maybe some governments will be sick of this and they will force a sale through. So they will force that Chinese Bitcoin mining company in wherever, Algeria or wherever, to sell it to a local producer, and then the government will get a share of that Bitcoin. All of that's to come. All of that fun and games is further down the line. Sui Treasury Mill City Ventures adds 20 million more of the token at slight discount. Again, I'm on the fence about whether this is a good idea or not. Listen, I hope you went short on Bitcoin yesterday at 122,000. That's all I will say. Basically, I'm on the fence about this one. I think Sui is still too young to be adding to a treasury. Now, treasuries are basically the money in the bank of these companies. So, you might have Microsoft. Microsoft, 3 or 4 years down the line, might have Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana and XRP already in its treasury. The same way the global currency is at the minute, it's the dollar, but it's not. It's about 55% dollars. It's got some Swiss francs in there. It's got some pounds. It's got some euros. It's got some Japanese yen. So when you read this, this is only a proportion of their treasury being held in these assets. And there might be very good reasons for it. If you've got a Bitcoin mining company, it makes sense for them to have Bitcoin. If you've got an Ethereum-based financial product, it would make sense for them to have Ethereum. Same with Solana, all of the different DeFi platforms. Camino Finance, it makes perfect sense for them to hold their treasury in Solana. I get all of that. But having Bonk, having Sui, or having any other coin with a sub 50 billion market cap, that's where I find a problem. Because for me, it looks more like an investment rather than a treasury hold. And I don't know what the legal requirements are in America for stuff like this. I don't know whether you're allowed to go and buy stocks and shares if you're a certain class of company. I don't know. But I just think what's going to happen at the end of this bull run is all of these treasuries are going to lift all of these assets maybe higher than they should have gone. And then at peak prices, so let's say Sui gets to, what's it at now, 350? Let's say Sui gets to $10 or $12. It's 360. Oh, they bought it at 360. Okay. Let's say it gets to $12. 4x's. Why don't they sell it? So then if they think, why don't I sell it? And all of the other treasuries think, why don't I sell my Sui? And suddenly, in the space of 2 or 3 weeks, there's $500 million worth of sell pressure on Sui. The price is going to absolutely tank. And then you're going to be left with treasuries who bought at 365 when Sui's now $1.80, and they might get margin called because they might have borrowed the money to buy Sui. Then they have to liquidate their assets. More sell pressure for Sui, and then it becomes a cascade. It's not so much of a problem with Bitcoin. The only massive threat to Bitcoin, for me, is if MicroStrategy goes south or there is a huge sell-off of ETFs. They are huge problems. But the bigger they get, the less I see it happening. But for things like SUI, this is going to be a black swan for SUI. And we might even go from market black swans, we might even go to chain black swans. Because if SUI does run up and you do see this big sell pressure, then you are going to see these dips. Remember what happened to XRP at the beginning of the year? XRP sold, was it $100 million worth of XRP? And at the time I said it was to pay the fine, and everybody else was saying it wasn't. It was to pay the fine. And what happened there? It absolutely dumped the price, didn't it? I think the price fell 15-25%. So if that's XRP selling $100 million of an asset that was worth at the time 60-70 billion, what's the sell pressure on SUI going to do to that price? It's why you should probably get to the end of this bull run and have no regrets. And the no regrets might be selling out of everything apart from Bitcoin, dollar cost averaging out of everything apart from Bitcoin, or if you're going to hold for the next 10 years and you don't give a monkeys, you just keep going. Okay, you eat up the bull run, you eat up the next bear market, you eat up the next bull run. That will take you 6 or 8 years down the line, and fair play to you. Everybody's timescales are different. Now, Beeple's crypto punks marketing stunt briefly pumps Nakamigos NFTs. This really kicked off on X. So it's so much so that the actual... Is there a picture of the guy? There isn't a picture of the guy. The guy in charge of Beeple, I think he was called Beeple, he came out and he actually had to make a video saying it was a joke. And, it was a joke. Really sorry, whatever. There was people on X that bought this token for, I think it was 0.4 ETH each, and the value of them fell to 0.25 ETH. Some guy lost $60,000 or $80,000 overnight. It was a bit of a disaster. Very briefly, then I can read some of this out. Beeple caused Nakamigos NFTs to soar and later plummet in price this weekend after an AI-based stunt at the artist's CryptoPunks meetup depicted Lava Labs founders launching an earlier iteration of the collection. The founders apparently discussed the original earlier iteration of CryptoPunks was created 2 years before the actual CryptoPunks NFT. This is what happened. Matt Hall and Beeple signed a statement that claims that Nakamigos is the V0 CryptoPunk that was developed by Lava Labs in 2015. 1,000 Nakamigos swept and floor doubled in an hour. And that's where the problem was. Because the price went up, and then literally 12 hours later, the price came down. And some guy had bought, there it goes, came down to 0.189. And he bought at 0.4 or something like that. He lost half of his money. Anyway, the way to look at stuff like this is, please don't go near NFTs. Okay, the NFTs that you should be looking at are NFTs that add value to your life. Memberships to VIP clubs, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to keep saying the same thing every week, but basically, don't buy something because it's a pretty rock. Buy something because it opens a door. And you want that door to be open because you want access to it. There are loads of NFT projects out there that are just pretty pictures. And buy them on the proviso that you know they're a pretty picture. There are plenty of other NFTs out there which are part and parcel of a bigger ecosystem. Talked about Star Atlas in the past. To fly around the galaxies, you need a ship. $30, $50, $100 buys you a ship to play the game. The game is free. You just need the ship and fuel. Okay, so that's how you play those types of games. You've then got other things. You've got communities where they give you a percentage of the royalties. You've got communities that give you access to trading signals, for example, all that kind of stuff. So, I am very, very against pretty rocks. Hello, Kishan. Right, let's go back over here. I need to sort this out. We've got 64 views on Binance Square, and we normally get 3,000 or 4,000 views on Binance Live, so I need to go and have a word with the guys over there and see what I need to do. Right, let's go back to the main screen, because I think we're nearly pretty much done. Right, where are we? We're 11:59, perfect. Right, so tomorrow night we've got Maple Quiz. 3 people are going to win. I'm probably going to give away Syrup USDC like I did last time. If you want to win, there's going to be more questions. The Oracle, breaking news, the Oracle is writing some of these questions in the style of Jeopardy. So what he's going to do is he's going to give you the answer and you have to guess the question. Okay? Now, if you've never been to one of our quiz nights before, they are a barrel of laughs. Okay? The game works 99% of the time. We don't guarantee anybody victory, but what we do have towards the end of the show is we have a lot of sweaty palms, okay? Because the leaderboard is always pretty close, pretty tense. We always send Tariq the answers, and Tariq never wins, okay? Now, I don't know who to blame for that, but to be sent the full list of answers, Tariq, and for you not to get all of them right, and even the bear beats you sometimes, okay? So if you do come along, it's the first time, you'll recognise a lot of the names if you come a few months or a few weeks on the trot. Tariq is always about the top 5. KB is always about the top 3. Danny and Mary always up there as well. Of course, we've got the number 1 target, which is Hidden Agendas. I think he's won 5 of the last 6 or 4 of the last 5. Who else wins? The Bear wins sometimes. Kabir wins sometimes. I don't send you the wrong answers all the time. It's your. The problem is you fall asleep halfway through the quiz. You fall asleep at question 7, and then you wake up at question 11, and then you start answering question 11 with the answers from questions 8 and 9 and 10. That's the problem. Is you fall asleep. You're an old man now. You're an old man. You've been watching me for a couple of years. You must be in your 50s by now. You've been in crypto for 2 years. If we're going to use the interstellar rule, that makes you about 60. So there's always the same names there, which is good. And as I've said to you many, many times before, I'd rather have 15 people show up who I know than 150 people show up that I don't know. So, and I don't really care if people don't find out about this quiz. It's our quiz, and we're going to keep it to ourselves. Okay? I don't really massively promote it. I don't really talk about it that much on X. I do mention it because, of course, Maple, we're an ambassador of Maple, so we do a little bit there. Wolfswap, of course, we're an ambassador of them. We do a little bit there. And, of course, Mew, we're an ambassador of. We do a little bit there. But I don't really want 100 people playing the quiz. Did you win, Tariq, or did you come in the top 3? I think you've come in the top 3. I'm not sure you've ever won. I think KB, Hidden Agendas, I think Mary and Danny have won a few times. Mags has come close. By the way, as well, Mags sent us a picture of his setup, and it's great. Why is it great? Because there's 2 monitors and there's beer. That's all you should have, okay? Monitors, unless you don't drink, and then you should have mint tea, or you should have herbal tea or coffee. But the setup is perfect for me. So, with all that being said, I am not streaming tomorrow morning. I will be streaming with the Oracle tomorrow night, and we're either going to do it from the office or we're going to do it from somewhere else, and the Oracle will be on camera and I won't, but we will have to wait and see. Manjeet, if you try, that is all we can ask, and we know not everybody can win. Not everybody can win. I remember once we had a girl in Telegram. Was it Florence? Flo, I think she was called. Not seen her in a very long time. And she basically said we should just give prizes out to everybody. And that's a great idea in theory, but in practice, that would involve me sending out 25 transactions, 50 transactions in some cases back in the day. And that's just so much extra work. If there was a button I could press, fine. But there's no participation prize, unfortunately. But anyway, I've also linked to my X account at the top there. If some of you don't follow me, I do a lot of giveaways on X, okay? And I know this is going off on a tangent, but this is the last thing I promise I'm going to say. And there are a couple of different things I'm going to do giveaways for on X. We get a lot of traction on X. We get way more traction on X than we do on YouTube at the minute, simply because retail are not here. It's like banging my head against a brick wall with YouTube. We still put videos up, we still stream there, but X is where it is. And on my account, you will see that we have a couple of giveaways. We've got to be very careful what I show. I'm not allowed to show certain logos on here. Excuse me. But we do Chronos Chain stuff. There's a new Amplify competition out, which you need to go and check out. The link is on here, which is this, called Tweet and Earn. Are you an active content creator, call, or just have a batch of followers and want to earn? How about free to register, 2-second sign up, tried and tested version 1. So this is version 2 of Amplify by Wolfswap. And again, not been paid to talk about this today. What I'm saying is there is a lot of pretty good alpha on my X account. We were giving away BC token over the weekend for the correct score of the Liverpool Crystal Palace game. So 5 people, is it 4 people? 4 or 5 people won that. We talk about syrup an awful lot. And again, we talk about lots of things. Anyway, beside the point. Right, I will see you all tomorrow night. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in. See you tomorrow night for the quiz. Have a great Wednesday if I don't see you in the day. Thank you, Manjeet, Tariq, KB, Hidden, Simon, everybody else that's here. See you all tomorrow night. Have a great few days between now and then. Take care.